Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Hey, what's up, Nexus fam? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And you know I'm your host, Dr. Daniel. So this week, check it out. What I want to talk about is the power of chiropractic care. And the way that I want to do that is just share some case studies with you. So you're seeing me hold a mic. I am trying to change it up, make the podcast just sound a little bit better. And so I'll probably be experimenting with holding the mic versus not. So hopefully it's not too distracting. But neither here nor there for you on the episode. I am going to get into the power of chiropractic care, a little bit about how it works, but most importantly, what I want to share with you are just a bunch of case studies, because what I think is important is that I feel like a lot of times people step foot into our office, and this is really what I've noticed over the course of the last 2 weeks, is that people step foot into our office, and one of the things that they experience is like when we start talking about the brain, and we start talking about the way that the body heals itself, a lot of people don't realize that chiropractic care is much more than just neck pain, back pain, headaches. And the reason this is the case is because, yes, when we adjust someone, we can help turn off the pain response. And the way that we do that is through very specific adjustments. When we get joints of the spine moving well, the way that they're supposed to, that movement of the joints of the spine actually gives your brain a workout. And when your brain gets a workout, it actually gets stronger to be able to turn off a pain signal. Now, there's way more physiology involved in it than that. But yes, chiropractic care can help with back pain and headaches, etc. But what gets really cool are the cases that I've seen in the office over the course of the last few weeks. And I just wanted to share some of those case studies, because this is truly what I believe is the power of chiropractic care. And understanding that chiropractic care is not about addressing your back. Yes, we adjust your back, but the only reason that we touch your back and the only reason that we touch your spine is because that's what we know through the most recent neuroscience, is that that's what affects your brain. And so what we're really looking at in our office anyways, we're looking at, okay, where are there imbalances in your brain? We can measure for those, which is a big piece of what we do. And then we take those imbalances in the brain and we figure out, okay, how do we adjust that specific person sitting in front of us? So there's this very individualized approach. And here's what's cool is we can kind of see some case studies and some results that we've seen. So just top of mind, I have a few notes here written down on my iPad that I would like to cover, but like biggest case study I can think of is we had a family bring their kiddo who's almost 2 in, and this kid's had this like severe head tilt for the longest time. So by the traditional doctors diagnosed with torticollis, and I could get into all the details of like their exam findings and some of that stuff, but they've been to quite a few practitioners, haven't seen much result. And one of the things that's super cool is that when we look at the diagnosis of torticollis, there's only one true torticollis, and it's a head tilt to the right side. And so I could get into the neurology of it, but I will not on this episode. And so what we see, after adjusting this kiddo for just a few weeks now, is we're starting to see this little one's head line up straight. So instead of used to have this super hard head tilt to one side and big bulging muscles in the back on one side and imbalances in their cranial bones, we're starting to see all those things go away. Now, why does this matter? So part of it is just aesthetic for the parents, but then also understanding that like if the muscles are firing in this way, that there's tight muscles or there's a torticollis or whatever the case may be, realizing that what actually tells the muscles to be tight on one side versus the other to create a head tilt or create a scoliosis or create a short leg or a lot of the other things that people are told that they have is realistically due from an imbalance of the brain from one side to the other. And so with this kiddo in particular, yes, we take care of tons of kids. Yes, we take care of newborn babies. The reason that we take care of newborn babies is so that they never have to have issues in the first place, because we are addressing the brain, which is the master control system of the body. It controls our hormonal systems. It controls our digestive system. It controls our heart. It controls our liver. It controls every single vital function inside of our bodies. If we don't have a brain, life's not possible. If it's functioning less than through stress and lack of movement of the joints of the spine, then every other part of the body is going to function less than. And this is why we see people who come into our office and they say, oh, hey, my kid's head tilt's getting better, their torticollis is getting better. It's the same reason that we see people in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are like, man, I feel like I'm operating like I was 10 years ago. Like I just have so much more energy. I feel like my body's moving better. And it's because we're addressing the brain. It's not necessarily because we're special or we're the master healers, because we're not. What we tell people inside of our office is that your body knows how to heal itself. And so that's just one example with a kiddo. A couple other examples I have. You know, what's so interesting about the care that we are like so honored to get to provide inside of our office at Nexus Family Chiropractic is that sometimes we take for granted where people come into us. And I have one person in particular who I can think of who's just kind of like, they love what we do and they talk about us a lot to other people in a good way. And one of the things that I've had a conversation about before is this idea that they're like, dude, you literally have the hardest job. And the reason that they tell me I have the hardest job is because what they realize is like there's a level of miracle that's happening when the body starts to heal itself, because your body is magnificent. And when we wake up the brain, the body's going to heal itself more deeply. But when that happens, one of the things that we notice is that people will start to forget where they were at. And I'm guilty of this too. So like I take this so much for granted sometimes in terms of chiropractic care. We have a client who's coming in to see us. They're in their 70s, and you know, they're not old by any means, but definitely looking for something new inside of their life, looking for another level inside of their life. And here's what's so cool is that working with this client is I was reminded from them, I was like, man, do you remember when you first started coming in, like your body was not moving at all? And this person had to remind me like, dude, do you remember when I came into your office? I was as sick as I had ever been, and I literally had a colostomy bag. And I was like, so embarrassed to even be sitting in your office and like dragging this thing around, and I didn't want to do the walking test that you had me do. And I'd forgotten how desolate of a place this person was in. And because I'd seen him every day since, and there's been so much vitality and so much joy and so much happiness and so much more range of motion and so much better function in the body overall. Yes, neurologically, but from organ systems as well. And again, it's all due to chiropractic, because when we wake up the brain, the body has no choice but to heal itself at a deeper level. And so that's just one, you know, just fully working out, fully living life, fully going on vacation and not able to do it before because they're like carrying around a colostomy bag. So that's one example. Another example, we have a client who just got back from Africa, and when they came into us, their biggest complaint was that there were a couple complaints. So one is that they could not lay on their side and snuggle with their spouse for more than like 60 seconds, or they would have severe neck pain, severe shoulder pain. The other thing is that they couldn't throw a football, like literally could not lift their arms above their head on either side. And you know, some of these things seem like so insignificant, and it's not necessarily because there was even pain, but they just didn't have the range of motion. And this is someone who's not old. It's someone in their 50s, right? So not old by any means. And couldn't throw a ball, so that means they couldn't throw a ball with their kids. And they go to Africa just recently, and they come back and they're like, dude, you're not gonna believe this. Like, I was able to full on throw a javelin in Africa and like do some things that my body literally would have never been able to do 2 years ago. And so it's like these little reminders is that sometimes we take it for granted, but how we can help people literally live a quality of life worth living. In our office, we talk about 4 Ps. We talk about posture, presence, productivity, and profit. All 4 of those things are controlled by the frontal cortex of the brain, or the front part of the brain, which is what we're affecting when we're doing our chiropractic adjustments in the first place. So when we talk about profit, yes, I talk about making more money, but what I'm really talking about is profiting from life experiences, being able to do the things you do them full out, love them, do it for a lifetime. And this is what's so cool is like helping this client. They've realized like, dude, I've been able to do some things that I would have never been able to do if it weren't for chiropractic care in the first place. So we have another guy who just started coming to see us, as a matter of fact. And what's cool about his story is that when he started coming in to see us, he's like, you know, I really don't have any pain. He's like, I really don't have any issues. I just feel like my life is chaotic and I'm always going from point A to point B and place to place to place. And so one of the things that we start working with him on, I'm like, hey, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to accomplish then if you're not in pain? Because most people come to us initially because they think they're there for pain, and then they realize that it's so much more. And he's like, dude, honestly, I almost feel like I have narcolepsy. Like, I'm so exhausted all the time that anytime I sit for more than a second, I'm closing my eyes and I can be out asleep. And so he's like, I got a super busy season coming up. It's almost Q4. It's almost the end of the year. And the coolest part is every week I'm asking him, I'm like, hey man, like what changes are you noticing? And he's like, not really noticing any changes. Hey, what changes are you noticing this week? Not really noticing any changes. And then one day I just randomly ask him like, hey, how's your energy doing? Because that was like your biggest goal. And he stopped and he's like, dude, since I started coming here, like my energy has been epic. My energy has been so good. And what's crazy is like when we think about the nervous system, when we think about the brain, and we think about the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic system, or the two branches of the nervous system, what we realize is that his body was firing in sympathetics, or the fight or flight state, and all of his energy was going towards protecting itself. All of his energy was going towards safety. It wasn't going towards thriving. So now what's cool is like just with this simple question, right? He realized that like, oh my gosh, literally since I've been here, my energy has been through the roof. My mood has been better. I've been way more productive. I haven't been wanting to or needing to take the naps in the middle of the day. And this is the kind of stuff that we're after inside of our office. It's like allowing people to experience a quality of life that's worth living, because he's way too young. Like dude is in his 30s, just like me. And like way too young to feel like he's falling apart. And I'll tell this to anybody, is like if you're in your 30s and you feel like, oh, this is just what it's like to be 30. Or if you're in your 40s and you're like, oh, this is just what it's like this is just how life has to be. I promise you, you do not have to settle for that. I just got back from a surfing trip. I was the second oldest person there and the one who feels like they're least falling apart. The only thing I do differently that none of the other people there do is get chiropractic care on a regular basis. And I see this time and time and time again throughout my life, and time again throughout the lives of the clients that we get to take care of. We had another woman we just started taking care of, and she hasn't even been with us 6 weeks, and she's like, literally, I came here because I was not sleeping well, and I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept in my entire life. And so why? Again, because when we turn off the stress hormones in the body, the stress hormones actually keep us awake. And so when we adjust the spine, we wake up the brain, we get the brain to tell the body to relax, we turn off that flood of stress hormones, and the body can go back into a rest and digest state. And we change this flood of hormones that are happening in the system. And it's not because we're magical. It's not because we are fixing the body, but because we understand how to address the body to allow the body to heal itself in the first place. And then, I have so many stories of people who've I've literally been everywhere and I've just been hopeless, and I've been to 50 doctors and I've seen every neurologist and I've seen the neurosurgeons and I've seen the orthopedists and I've seen the PTs, and I'm not saying any of them are bad or right or wrong or whatever the case may be, but what I'm saying is that if we don't address the brain, if we don't address the function of the nervous system, we will miss the entire boat. So we can focus on the knee pain, we can focus on the quads, we can focus on the calves, we can focus on the hamstrings, we can focus on strengthening and stretching and doing all those things, but the brain tells the muscles what to do in the first place. And this is why I get so passionate about what we do, is because what we're tapping into is the God-given potential that's inside of each person already. And this is why I get so fired up about chiropractic care. This is why I think the power of chiropractic care is so important, is because what it really comes down to is making the world a healthier, better place. Like every person we take care of, every person that I just listed on this list, they're going to show up differently inside of their lives. Some for their kids, some for their spouses, some for their employees, some for the people that they interact with, like the barista or the person at the grocery store or whatever it may be on a daily basis. Like people are going to show up differently, and when that happens, we start to increasingly make the world a better place, because the interactions start to change, relationships start to change, decision making starts to change. And this is why I love, and I feel so privileged to get the care, to provide the care that we get to provide, is because as we're waking up the brain, we're bringing people back into alignment. Yes, physically in the spine, but more on a level of how the brain is firing so that people can connect closer to God. And this is what it's all about. Every single one of you, listening, watching, whatever it is, you have a gift inside of you. It is the gift of healing. God already gave it to you. Your body is designed to heal itself. Your body is designed to have a fight or flight or stress response state when we have a stress. And if you don't fight or run away when you have those stresses, which 99% of the time in the world that we live in today, we are not going to fight or run away. Our body stays locked in a stressed out state. And the only way to get the brain to wake up is to get joints of the spine moving properly, which is what we do inside of our office. We have a very specific approach on how we do it. If you have questions on that, I would love for you to ask. You can email us, you can text us, you can check out our website for more info. And my friends, I will come at you again next week. My question for you is this, is what could the power of chiropractic care be inside of your life? Like I've seen it change my life, from frustration and lack of passion to addiction to owning a business and being able to take care of people at the deepest level possible. The people I shared with you, throwing a javelin when they didn't think they would be able to do so, spending time with their kids and their spouses in ways that they wouldn't be able to do so, more energy for their family and their employees where they otherwise wouldn't be able to do so, not getting enough sleep and just feeling exhausted and not feeling like a good spouse all the time. Like, this is what the chiropractic care we provide is all about. Yes, we can help with pain, but it's so much more than that because we're focusing on the brain. So my friends, where in your life could you have more? And I would encourage you to just sit with that question. And my question for you is this, is are you addressing your brain? So I love you. I appreciate you. I will come at you again next week. Hope you got some value out of this episode. Peace.